Springtime, a season of new life and new beginnings. For the spotted salamander, springtime brings with it the birth of a new generation of life. As the weather begins to warm and the seasonal rains begin to fall, pools will form across the land, and here the circle of life begins for these salamanders. The yellow-spotted salamander, Abystomum maculatum, lay their eggs in what are called ephemeral pools. That is, when springtime ends, they disappear, not to reform until the rains come again next year. These pools provide protection for the salamander's young. Since the pools only appear once per year, they are not inhabited by predators like fish and frogs that are the greatest danger to the unhatched eggs. These eggs have an especially interesting relationship with a certain species of green algae, Oophila ambistomatis. David Laurencio, an expert on the yellow-spotted salamander, explains more.
And then the females will lay eggs, and those eggs actually get colonized by a symbiotic algae, which is really cool. And if you actually see them after this happens, they'll start turning green. And those algae actually will provide oxygen to the eggs, especially the ones internally in the egg mass that isn't on the edge exchanging as much oxygen with the water. So that's a neat symbiotic relationship that they have with algae.
These eggs have a much safer life than most amphibian eggs, with the greatest danger being the possibility of their temporary home drying up, leaving them stranded to die. The young must hope then that their parents chose well. If they want to reach maturity, their pool must stay wet. Once hatched, the young spend their first stage of life as tadpoles, similar to frogs, their amphibian relatives. This stage is a rather precarious one, as they are in intense competition with their siblings for the limited resources in their small pools, and many predators, snakes, birds, frogs, squirrels, and even other salamanders, would love a tadpole as a tasty snack. They must be careful. Most will only hunt at night, eating what they can. When they are small, the only thing on the menu is zooplankton, but as they grow, they can begin to eat small arthropods that may inhabit their pool. The few tadpoles that are able to survive this stage will undergo a rapid metamorphosis. They will lose their gills and grow out their legs. Their skin becomes black, and they gain the characteristic yellow spots on their back. With this transformation complete, they may take their first steps onto land, breathing the fresh air through their fully developed lungs. Once mature and free to move about on land, these salamanders elect for a solitary and peaceful lifestyle. They spend their days hiding under logs and stones, dark and damp places, which serves them two benefits. First, they can avoid predators, as they lack camouflage and are relatively slow-moving. And second, the hot sun will dry up their skin, which requires moisture for them to survive. At night, they may come out to hunt, where they will have a diverse diet. Mr. Laurencio explains more.
They are insectivores, so they'll eat everything that they can basically fit in their mouth. So they're I think as larvae they're called gape limited. So basically, if it doesn't fit in their mouth, they can't eat it. But if it fits, they're probably going to take a shot at it. As a group, they're very hardy feeders. If you ever keep them as pets, they'll very readily eat. They'll take food right out of your hand. They'll nip at your finger if you wiggle it in front of them, so they have a very good feeding response. But we feed them everything from crickets to spiders, any invertebrates that we find. They'll also eat earthworms, and yeah, they love to eat.
The salamanders will live this simple life from late summer through winter, focused only on hunting and staying alive. During this time, they are difficult to find in the wild, as they are recluses who will only emerge for the promise of a good meal. Once winter has passed, the weather will begin to warm, and most importantly, the rains will begin to fall. The salamanders will emerge from their hiding holes to fill the newly formed pools, all searching for mates in a wild frenzy. The eligible males and females will come in droves to the pools in an intense competition to pass on their genes. The males especially, as Mr. David Laurencio explains, have very specific requirements.
There is the little courtship dance that they do. The males will use their heads and rub and poke the females, and the females will nudge the males. It's an interesting reproductive strategy in that the males will put what's called a spermatheca. It's a sperm packet on the leaf litter on the bottom of the pool where they're courting, and then he will kind of move around, and the female has to be positioned to where she can pick up that spermatheca with her cloaca. So you've got to do your dances right, your moves right, to get the females in the right spot. Matter of fact, and if the male comes, if there's an aggregation of males and there's a whole bunch of males out there, they're all trying to get the female. If they find a spermatheca on the ground, they'll lay theirs on top of the other one to make sure it's theirs.
With mating complete and the eggs laid, the mature salamanders return to their damp hiding places to wait until the next year. They will come back to the same pools annually, year after year, some up to 20 or 30 years through their entire lifespan. They will continue in competition to survive and reproduce in a dangerous world.
For more information, visit the Museum of Natural History at Auburn University.